Italy's home to endless mountains of cheese, bottomless vats of wine, and more types of bread and pastas than you could hope to eat in a lifetime. But over the years, all these luxuries have been made better by their pairing with another Italian delicacy: Italian cured meats. I'm talking prosciutto, I'm talking mortadella, I'm talking every style of Italian cured meat out there. But before I jump in, and if you're feeling fancy, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and let me know what other foods and regions you would like to explore. Okay, let's go get some gabagool.
Gabagool, over here.
Translated, prosciutto just means ham, which, yeah, that's pretty anticlimactic. But then you remember ham is delicious, and ham is just the meat from a pig's hind legs. Sometimes it's cooked, made into thin, moist slices known as prosciutto crudo, while more often it comes uncooked or prosciutto crudo. This later version is dry-aged, meaning that the meat is salted and cured over the course of several months or years. Both prosciuttos can ultimately be served however you like. By itself, prosciutto is a delicate, nicely balanced, salty, fat, and savory flavor. When pairing though, try it with some fresh mozzarella on a nice, crunchy baguette, maybe a little olive oil. That never hurt anyone. Of all the prosciuttos out there, the most famous are prosciutto di Parma and prosciutto di San Daniele. Like its name would suggest, prosciutto di Parma is an uncooked prosciutto from Parma, the city otherwise most famous for its Parmesan Reggiano cheese. In fact, when making Parmesan, when the milk coagulates, separating the curd which goes to the cheese, and then the whey, at least portions of it, goes to the pigs. Prosciutto is usually aged for about 10 to 12 months, using only sea salt for its initial seasoning. Prosciutto di San Daniele, on the other hand, is also uncooked. It's aged for about 15 to 18 months and ends up with a sweeter taste than its Parma counterpart. As with many Italian wines, it's created by following a strict set of regional guidelines. Any prosciutto that falls outside of those guidelines can't legally bear the region's name. You'll see PDO. Translated, it stands for Protected Designation of Origin. Speck, like prosciutto, is essentially ham, and it also comes from northern Italy. But instead of being strictly dry cured, speck is first rubbed with a mixture of spices, often including juniper or bay leaves, before it is ultimately cold smoked over beechwood chips. Speck has a smokier flavor than prosciutto, closer to some ways to bacon but way more pungent. Like prosciutto, speck is also served with Parmesan Reggiano and big chunks of crusty bread. Don't be confused when you're walking through a German grocery store. Germans and Austrians also have their own version of speck. Though their speck often makes use of similar spices to the Italian counterpart, the Austro-German speck is made from pork belly instead of pork legs, giving it a marbled, fattier look and flavor. Sada comes from a variety of Italian regions, including Calabria, Campania, Bascalata, and Molise. Sada is made from a variety of pig parts, with the exact parts used varying from region to region. It is typically prepared as a salami, assembled from ground or coarsely pressed pork, but it can also be made as a cured dried sausage. Some, like Sada de Calabria, are made using hot peppers, while others, like Sada de Puglia, make use of the extra lard for added textural fatty pleasure. Usually, Sada is served sliced with bread or vegetables, or it's paired with assaggio cheese as an appetizer, meant to accompany some of Italy's most famous dishes, and it's great on a pizza. Bresaola takes a break from the pork. It's an aged beef that makes use of middle-aged techniques for preserving game. It's salted and spiced and then set next to a fire and then air dries for the next 2 to 3 months where it gains a dark red color. It ends up tasting like a leaner, thinner pastrami with little to no fat at all. Bresaola is often served on its own or with a hard cheese like a pecorino, or for more upscale eaters with white truffle shavings. Most famously though, it's served as Bresaola della Valtellina Santa, a Lombardian starter dish that sees the meat accompanied by rye bread that's smothered in juniper butter. In America, we have bologna, but in Bologna, they have mortadella. Mortadella is pale and pink and made from emulsified pork. Traditionally, this was done with a mortar and pestle as a way to make sort of a poor man's salami, meant to make low-quality pork more edible for peasants. Once the pig has been emulsified, then it's mixed with both fat from the pig's neck and an assortment of spices. These spices often include peppercorn, garlic, and pistachio, as you can see here, and the resulting mixture is usually steamed. However, regional variances changes all this. To Bologna's south, for instance, the famous Mortadella di Campotosto instead relies on smoking instead of steaming, and often makes use of cinnamon, cloves, and white wine for flavoring. While to the north, Mortadella di Orta distinguished itself with the inclusion of pig's liver, giving it a far more noticeable pungent flavor than its southern cousin. Pancetta is Italian bacon. It's pork belly cured with salt and spices and either served as one flat slab or in a roll of spiraled up fat meat. The rolled version is more common in northern Italy, while the slab version is more common down south, and each is served with entirely different foods. The slab pancetta is likewise often cubed and sautéed, so its high fat content can get rendered down into a porky base for sauces. It's then usually added to pastas or soups, and can even be used as a guanciale substitute in pasta carbonara. The rolled version, on the other hand, is treated more like a prosciutto, and it's usually either eaten by itself or wrapped around other foods like vegetables or scallops. Salami Genovese, or Genoa Salami, is what Americans typically think of when they think of deli salami. It's a wide, soft salami that hails from Genoa in Italy's northwestern Liguria region. While it's usually made from pork, it sometimes includes beef or veal too, and ends up with a greasier consistency than your typical Italian meat. It's likewise usually seasoned with salt, garlic, and white wine, along with white peppercorns, and has a spotty complexion. You can eat it straight, with cheese and bread, or just throw it on top of a pizza. Andouille is the Italian chorizo. It's a spreadable pork sausage from Italy's southern Calabria region, made with a blend of whatever leftover pork parts might be laying around. It often makes use of pig's belly, shoulder, liver, and jowls, a blend that is then mixed with lots of fat, spices, and most importantly, Calabrian chili peppers. These peppers give andouille the notoriously fiery flavor profile, making it the perfect sausage for spice seekers. Traditionally, andouille is peasants' food, meant to be eaten with bread or cheese. Recently, though, it's found a home in pasta sauces, on pizzas, and in some upscale restaurant menus all the way from London to New York City. Luganega is an Italian pork sausage from northern Italy, mainly produced in Lombardy, Veneto, and Trentino. It usually comes coiled up in one very long spiral made to look like a snail. You can see it on the grill here in Goodfellas. What makes Luganega stand out on its own is its strong use of fennel. But the actual pork content within Luganega varies from region to region, and some end up fattier than others. Likewise, the fattier takes on Luganega tend to be meant for rich stews, while the leaner takes are meant for barbecues. Capicola is also known as Capicola, Coppa, or for the lovers of the Sopranos out there, Gabagool. Regardless of what you call it, this cured meat is like a cousin to prosciutto. It uses meat from a pig's neck and shoulder, which is cured for up to 6 months, and it usually comes in either a hot or sweet flavor profile. But, as you might expect from something with a handful of names, Capicola is made in different ways in over half a dozen different Italian regions, each one having their own unique take on the meat. So sometimes it's sweet. It gets that way from the added sugar, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg in the salt cure, while sometimes it's hot, made spicy by the addition of the oft-used Calabrian chili flakes. Cotticino dates back over 500 years to the siege of Mirandola in what is today's Italy's province of Modena. According to legend, when the cook of Pico della Mirandola realized that all the local pigs would soon fall into his enemies' hands, he decided to slaughter them all and make them into slow-cooked sausage, filling the pig's intestines with meat made from the pig's shoulders, cheeks, necks, and head. Cotticino has since become a traditional New Year's Eve food, coupled with a plateful of lentils. It's usually flavored with pepper, clove, and nutmeg. Sometimes though, the intestinal casing is replaced with the bone-out lower leg of the pig, in which case the sausage loses its cotticino name and is instead referred to as zamponi. Guanchali, known as pillow in Italian, is considered a cornerstone of Italian cuisine. It is a staple ingredient in various pastas, risottos, and stews from both Lazio and Umbria, along with some of the most famous Roman dishes including bucatini al matriciana and spaghetti alla carbonara. So what exactly is it? Translated as cheek, guanciale is a salt-cured pork jowl with a bold, sweet, and savory pork flavor, brought about in part by garlic, black pepper, juniper, or rosemary that are sometimes applied during the curing process. Its high fat content gives it a remarkably tender texture that allows it to grow nice and crispy when cooked. Lardo is pure, unadulterated pig fat taken from the back of a pig. It's cured and aged from 6 months to 2 years, which gives it a smooth and tender consistency. It also makes use of a variety of seasonings, including sea salt, garlic, rosemary, and black pepper, along with the lesser used anise, cinnamon, and coriander. In Lardo's early history, the people of Tuscany enjoyed it in thick, fatty slices between 2 pieces of bread. It was reportedly one of Michelangelo's favorite dishes. More recently, though, it's served as a paper-thin, buttery delicacy, and usually paired with an antipasto or on top of fried dough. When Americans think of pepperoni, they think of little salamis on a pizza, but when Italians think of pepperoni, they think of bell peppers. What Americans call pepperoni is called by Italians salami picante. It is a salami that is smaller and spicier than the typical meaty fare, and it's usually made with red pepperoncino peppers, giving it a red-orange color. Still, the American and Italian versions of the salami aren't exactly the same. The Italian version tends to be firmer, making it more compatible with antipasto than with pizza. Lonza is a lean, air-cured pork loin. It's seasoned with either fennel or black pepper, and then smothered in olive oil to bring out its flavor. The process for curing Lonza is relatively quick. It's often associated with springtime in Italy, and it's usually the first cured meat from the previous year to be ready for eating. It is then served with raw fava beans and pecorino romano, a hard grana-style Italian cheese made from sheep's milk. Literally translated as head, Testa is head cheese, which is made, in this case, by brining an entire pig's head and turning its various parts into terrine, or a small loaf or meat square. Essentially, it looks like if pate were somehow more rustic. Different regions have different approaches to making the pig's head edible, but the final product usually contains anything from the tongue to the snout to the cheek. Likewise, Testa goes by different names in different regions. In much of northern Italy, it's called Formaggio di Testa. In Genoa, it's called Testa di Cassetta. But in Tuscany, many use the term interchangeably with Sada, and in central parts of Italy, many use it interchangeably with coppa. So unless you clarify, your Italian Sada or your coppa just might come out with a little extra heady surprise. While not technically cured, porchetta, which literally just means little pig, is an Italian lunchtime staple. And this little pig is one of my favorite things to eat. It's made by roasting an entire deboned pig carcass over a wood fire. Porchetta can be stuffed with garlic, rosemary, fennel, or even liver. Over the years, it's also become a common product among Italian street vendors, who often sell it out of food trucks during holidays and festivals. While traditionally porchetta is associated with both the Roman town of Aricia and the broader Lazio region, it's grown so important to Italian culture that many regions have created their own unique takes on the meat. It's likewise been labeled by the Italian Ministry of Agriculture as a traditional agricultural food product, meaning it too is legally regionally protected by the Italian government. So what do you think? What is your favorite Italian meat? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to watch more videos from Come to Cheesus on the Crisp Whisk channel.